Hello folks, this is Steve AB4L. This video is in a series talking about the effect of Tropical Depression Chantal that passed through our area just so recently. Now where I am, as I explained in the very first video, we just got a couple of inches of rain, and I'm on high ground. The deeper river down there, it's used to it. We only got a couple of inches of rain altogether. But a regular subscriber wrote me a comment about the Eno River flooding, and I said, yeah, I'm actually preparing a video on that very thing. And that's what this is. Now, the reason why it's of interest, when I used to live in Raleigh, I used to go up to Durham and the Hillsborough area to fish the Eno all the time. I mean, a lot. I know the whole Eno River, and it's long. So here is WFMY, a YouTube video, and they wanted to show, now, over here on the left side of the map is Greensboro. Greensboro's 30 miles north of where I am. If you go due north from where I am, that's Greensboro. I'm orienting you. The yellow means they didn't get much rain, and in that area they got 2.5 inches. Pretty much the way it was here. We were on the western edge. If you went a little further west, they didn't get anything. But if you go directly east along 40, Interstate 40, see, and Old Highway 70, through places like Burlington and Mebane, and to Eno, on your way to Durham, 10 inches, 9 inches, 11 inches, they really got flooded out. Now, a little further along in that particular video, we get a slightly different view. Here's Greensboro. It was in the yellow. Here's Asheboro down here in the yellow. I said we got about the same amount of rain. And then it became, at a certain point, more intense, moving eastward along 40, Interstate 40. And what we're interested in is getting over to the other side of this, to where it's transitioning back toward the yellow color as we pass into Durham County and the city of Durham and the Eno River, which is something I'm very familiar with from years back. Now, I picked this from CBS 17 TV station. We're going to be looking at the flooding in this neighborhood. 80 people rescued by boat after major flooding. And the important thing is that it gave the name of the street in Durham. Rippling Stream Road. I love that name. Rippling Stream Road. And the stream they're referring to is the Eno River. Rippling Stream Road near Eno River in Durham. And you can see what the flooding was like there after the storm passed, which means the Eno River was still very high. It's not raining. This is after the storm passed. But why didn't the water just go away? This is a satellite view. This is North Roxborough Road in northwestern Durham City in Durham County. And this is the Eno River in that neighborhood. Eno River. Am I familiar with this? You see this little dam here? I have fished there. Yes, I have. I have fished there. Now look at how wide it is. Now that dam goes way back in terms of when it was built, and it's a low dam. It's about 6 feet high. I don't know what it was built for originally, and it was built at a time when there was no neighborhood in the vicinity. And I want you to look at how wide the river is there, and I want you to look at what the terrain looks like nearby. Here's another view of it face on, and here's a view of it looking down the slope. That's actually where I went to fish. It's interesting that there's a picture there. Now that's a different kind of map, right? And Rippling Spring Road is right there. Rippling Spring Road, the one where it's flooded, is right there. And we see that there are buildings here. And there's a little road that runs back here. And there's the Eno River. And there's a child care place right there. And there's actually an auto dealer right there. Now, the dam is right here. And notice this is Crooked Creek feeding in from the other side. And you see this right here? That's a trail. This is West Point on the Eno Park. I donated to them. I think they're beautiful. And that is how I got down to the dam from here, a long time ago. So why don't we take a look at what it looks like in here before it's flooded? Because this is what it looked like yesterday, and probably still sort of looks like it today. This is going in a few hundred yards onto the Rippling Spring Road. This is what kind of housing is in that area, and I looked it up, and this was built up in the early 1970s. Now we're headed back to North Broxborough Road. See the school bus? There's the child care thing, all right? Now if we go back a little bit here, you can see there's an entrance here and you can go behind. Remember the map? And there's some dumpsters here, but we can't go down there. See what it did? Now, keep in mind about this road, because I'm going to show you something. There's the auto dealership. And there's North Roxborough Road. We want to go out onto the road, and that's what it looks like there. Now, this picture is if we go out onto, go down here to the bridge over the Eno River. So I kind of jumped it, you see? Now, I want you to look on the other side. You see this? They built that as a pedestrian bridge as part of the West Point on the Eno Park, and there's trails where they encourage people to go walking. And they built a separate pedestrian bridge over the Eno so you can get from the high bank on the south side to the north side in order to do your couple-mile excursion. The trails go on for miles. They're beautiful. Well, we're more interested in what's on this side. Now you can see there's a business down there, and you can see there's a shallow embankment, and the river is at a typical low level. And it's fall, and we can't quite see, but the power lines are going down to this community right by here, okay? So let's back up for a moment. Whoop, that's not what I wanted. Okay, there's the pedestrian bridge. I think it used to be an old railroad bridge. And this is a different view with all the foliage. See how nice it is? But as soon as we move like that, now what we're interested in, as you're going to see in a moment, is down there right here behind that kindergarten school. Remember I said you could go down there and you could see the dumpsters? If you go down in there, park there, you can walk down easily down the embankment. And why am I pointing this out to you? Because down there is behind those houses that are in this scene. These are the houses we're going down behind. This is the United States Geological Survey National Water Dashboard. You've seen it in another video. These are all the stream gauges and other ways that they collect information about water. I have it centered. There's Falls Lake. Now, see, it doesn't show the city. There's Jordan Lake. And here's the Eno River, where it finally gets to Falls Lake. There's Falls Lake. There's 70. And these are stream gauges of various kinds, like Ellerby Creek near Gorman, North Carolina, and Little River near Orange Factory, North Carolina. This is North Roxborough Road right here. And this is the Eno River crossing it. And there is Crooked Creek. Remember I pointed it out? And there's the Eno River, and this park here is an Eno River Park. And what's this black dot? Eno River near Durham, North Carolina, monitoring location. The last report they have here is 515 cubic feet per second at 2:10 Eastern Daylight Time, 54 minutes ago. I'm making this video at 3:04 a.m. The houses are right here. The houses are right here. The daycare is there. The road toward the embankment is there. And there's the river gauge, which we couldn't quite see from the bridge over the river. And there's the trail that goes across on a separate bridge, right? So what happens if we click on that? It's loading the data. discharge cubic feet per second. It starts on July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Today is the 8th. So we are right here. So finally it's calming down. But look at the curve. This is all of yesterday during the daylight, Monday. I said that all those apartments were still underwater all day and into the night. I wasn't kidding. Excuse me. When I went away from it, I lost it. Let's look at the gauge height. If you went out behind that kindergarten thing and you walked down to the river, how far down do you think you'd be walking? 10 feet? 20 feet? According to the gauge height reading, when the storm came through and dumped 12 inches of rain right in that neighborhood and all around that area, 12 inches of rain everywhere there. Within 2 hours, it went from being at 1 foot gauge height to 25 feet. Think of the river being at this picture here. It's that typical gauge height, 1 foot. Do you think it's 25 feet up to the child care place up here? I think it's less than 25 feet elevation. That's why this neighborhood's underwater, because this is what 25 feet is. They did this when it was at 25 feet. Now, you can get another view of the gauge reading. This is the same place. It's the same graph I showed you, only now you'll really be able to see it. Here's July 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and then just around 10:30 p.m., as the storm drops 12 inches of rain right on them, all over there, the river goes woo, and you see how it went into the yellow zone and then the pink zone? Oh, look at that. So it went up above 25 feet. And it stayed up high for most of the day, and then after nightfall, it actually began to fall. And that's where the current reading is now. Now, just for comparison, let's look at the river height 2 miles down the road there in Franklinville. It's the same scale. We got all the way up to almost 7 feet. Is that very high? No, we only got 2.5 to 3 inches. And the watershed, which is huge, the watershed goes all the way up to Greensboro, the southern tip of Greensboro, for the deep river. The watershed is huge, but we didn't get much rain. And the river basin is wide in most places, and it ran off, even though everything was running down the hills. Now let's change the time scale. We went from 7 days to 30 days. River's been pretty low, except there was this peak here, and that's an important peak. Rain came through North Carolina around July 2nd in this area. So the ground was already saturated. And this represents the 2.5 inches of rain runoff from saturated ground all the way up to Greensboro. Didn't hit us very hard. Let's change the scale to 30 days. They didn't get any rain. You see? We got rain preparatory. Our ground was saturated. We already had dams that were trying to empty out. We knew more was coming. We took care of it. But they were dry over in Durham, 70 miles away to the east, 70 miles to the east. They were dry. Now let's make the scale change again. Whoop. Here's us 2 miles down the road. Let's take a look at a year. Back in August 2024, was that Tropical Storm Debby? Down there, we got enough rain from it. Or was that Helene? We got enough rain from it that we almost truly were flooding. Yes, it was over the banks, but what that means is that it actually comes up onto the road by the, you know, I've shown you the project with the old mills there, where they're showing you what the water was up to, onto the road. And that took a lot of water to get up that high because it spans out. You've already seen that video. It's a pan to come up to the river bank and start to flood over the bank is one volume, but then to spread over a wider area over the pan where the park is takes a lot more water. And we really got flooded back then. But here's what happened with Chantal. No big deal. Let's go to 1 year. This is the Eno River, North Roxborough Road, at the gauge that I've been talking about. The reason why they didn't get out of their houses and get the hell out of there is partially because the storm came after dark, and they probably got already in bed. My flip phone buzzes me incessantly because I have it enabled for flood warnings and missing children, Amber Alerts. What the people on Rippling Spring Road, if they look out the back windows of their houses, they can see the Eno River. They can just walk down and fish. This is what they're used to. No big deal. No big deal. And then they got surprised. I can't look at this longer than 1 year. Now, how did it get this high so fast? I want to take you on a little tour. Now remember, every place I'm going to show you, I have fished. My good twin side, Uncle Steve, has fished. We can see that the Eno River continues down. Now look at this whole forested area. It's not built up. And eventually it gets to Falls Lake. But we're interested in going upstream. We're not interested in downstream. So here's Rippling Stream Road. Here's the Eno River. Here's West Point on the Eno. I can remember catching some nice bass down here too. Not at the dam, but below the dam. Now let's continue upstream. There's Senate's Hole. You get to it by following this trail. There's rocks there. It's really nice. I've fished there. Yeah, I had to hike down there, but it's nice. There's Guess Road. That's a main road. But the Eno continues. You notice that it snakes, and you see all the woods around it? Keep in mind how much surface area we're accumulating. And remember, as we're moving west from North Roxborough Road, we're headed into heavier rainfall because North Roxborough Road was right at the edge where the superstorm was dying off. But as we move west, they didn't just get 3 inches there. Here they started to get 5 inches, and then they start to get 7 inches, and then they start to get 10 inches. I'm not exaggerating. In this distance. And you see how the river keeps going? I've been to the Dunnigan graveyard. I made a video about it. There's the Pea Creek Trail. Here's the coal mill. This is the place that I would come up, and where you cross the bridge here, there's a stream gauge right here. Pea Creek Trail, there's a stream gauge right there. And I would go up here to this junction and then come back down into here to Coal Mill Trail. And fish this. The green area is, there's the Piper Creek Campground, there's Bobbitt's Hole, fish there. See how it keeps going? Now it turns north. It just keeps going. Look at it. There's the Cox Mountain. This is the other end of Coal Mill. This is the Eno River. And we're headed to, there's the Buckwater Creek Bridge. Fish there. Holden Mill Ruins, I've seen them. Do you notice that there's no neighborhoods there? There's St. Mary's Road. And there's Highway 70. There's part of the Mountain to the Sea Trail. What's the Mountain to the Sea Trail? Down here, the Deep River is also trying to be a part of the Mountain to the Sea Trail. Could you walk without getting on roads very often from the Smoky Mountains to the seashore? They're trying to build a continuous trail system. Whoop, I didn't mean to do that. Look at how long the river is. Look at how it keeps going. Now, we're no longer in Durham. I think we're in Hillsboro. Yeah, we are. We're in Hillsboro. And it keeps going. And so basically these are the headwaters. There's 70. I fished everywhere from this area all the way down to Falls Lake. I fished it as Uncle Steve. Do you see how far that is? And in this area, they got over 10 inches. Because Haw River got 12 inches. Haw River there. It's the name of a river and the name of a town. And Haw River really flooded. But that's a north-south river. Think of the whole watershed, and it's all coming down 10, 12 inches of rain, 8 inches, 7 inches, and it's all happening in a couple of hours, and it all drains down into the Eno River. And if you were downstream of the Eno River, as all the tributaries and streams coming in from the side added to it, and there are hundreds of them. Yeah, little creeks that are dry most of the time, but when it really rains, suddenly there's a little creek running alongside the road, through your lawn, through a pasture, through the woods. Then you notice there's a little crevice in the dirt. That's what it is. And you wonder why there are pebbles there, because it's a little creek that only floods once in a while. And that's where it ended up, in their houses. And in people's houses all the way down to Falls Lake, if they were anywhere near the Eno River. It would be interesting to find out if this community that was built around 1970 to 75 has ever been flooded like this before, or is this a 1 in 100 year storm for the Eno River? I think that's the open question. Is this a 1 in 100 year storm? In which case, building here and having this community here is a good idea. Except unfortunately, they're the ones that got hit. Don't know if their insurance will cover it. But once it drains away, it's not going to happen again for another 100 years. So you might as well clean it up and continue living there. All right? And when I say things like once in 100 year storm, it's a phrase that old-time North Carolinians understand about. Because there are places especially going further down east, I'm thinking of a certain governor's palatial estate way up on a hill, a former governor's mansion, that back in the late 1980s, there was a big flood further east in North Carolina down near Princeton, and the floodwaters almost reached that mansion up on the hill. And the last time that happened was about 100 years ago, after the Civil War. Yeah, once you get out of the damn Yankee-filled up cities of North Carolina, and you get out into the countryside, people can tell you what happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago. Because like up in the area that we're talking about, the Quakers came down here about 200 years ago. So they remember it all. North Carolina is so beautiful, and their history is so rich. And I'm sorry for these people, but this is probably a once in 100 year flood. Steve A.B. Foriel. Hope you enjoyed the journey. Saying see you in 73.